Yeah, I think we are live. We have a lot of people joining. Thanks for joining the session. So, yeah, so finally we are here. I'm really excited for this session, especially. And we have Nebai here from Colombia. So, she's working on something really interesting, which is helping creators and all the people in the creative community, like artists, and also she has some ideas with for developers as well and open source projects as well. So she's working on some cool stuff in the Web3 space. So she will be sharing a lot of things today, and I'm really excited. And she has put a lot of efforts for this session to bring the quality for everybody out here. So feel free to share anything, like any questions you have in the Web3. Yes, I know it's really difficult because there are a lot of things going on in the social media. Like people are trying to leverage Web3 and they are trying to get into the hype. But it's very important to learn the fundamentals, like what is exactly the vision of Web3 communities and why we should move into that path instead of directly jumping into technologies or building stuff. So we are here today, and she'll be talking about sustainability 101. So it will involve future of work and how things are going to evolve, and what is the problem statement, first of all, like why we are trying to start this idea. So Nebai, over to you. You can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Joshua, and everybody that is attending to this webinar. I'm so happy to be here, very excited to talk about this new topic and this whole revolutionary trend that we are living in right now, the Web3. So very thankful for being able to be in this space, and I would love to hear you all also. If you have any comment, question, or critique, you have the chat open all throughout the conversation, and this is very nice for us to feel comfortable asking and commenting, and we would like to do this as chill and relaxed and friendly as possible. So thanks for having me, and yeah, very excited to hear you all what you think and what you think about what we're going to talk about.
Awesome. So really excited as well, and I think we will go with the presentation to make things very clear and very interactive as well. So you can use the Q&A section at the right side, so you can see chat. You can use chat for introducing yourself. Maybe if you are the first time watching on Aviyel, so you can introduce yourself, and you can ask any questions in the Q&A so that we get the notification, like, hey, someone is asking the question, so we can take up immediately. And Nebai, I think we are good to go. You can start the presentation.
Okay, people, thanks again for joining. I think I forgot to mention, I'm the CEO of Nebai Revelations. Further on, I would let you know what is it about and why is it important to you, why this whole thing of sustainability touches all of us, and why we should be aware of what is happening right now, what is trending in the Web3. So what we're going to talk today, the agenda that we have is the problem statements, why sustainability is important, the Web3 DAOs, metaverse, and how is the future of work in this sense. I would like to start mentioning the big three, something that I call the big three. That is the open source. This is this webinar. We are targeting into the open source community and the people that works for the Web3. And we have found something that is called, we have named something that I would like to call the big three, that are the big three main problems of the open source community. And there are many challenges, of course, but three big problems that we can all point out is The scarcity, first of all, the scarcity of contributors for ensuring the maintenance of the software development. And this is mainly because workers of the open source, they do it on their free time. They work on projects on their free time, and that dedication is not compensated economically. They are truly working on this on their free time, expecting nothing in return most of the time. And that also lead them to have a 9-to-5 jobs so they can survive. But it would be a great solution to find a balance in between those two, working on a hobby and at the same time receiving constant revenues from that. Another issue that is correlated to the scarcity talent of contributors is the philanthropy and non-profit approaches that cannot provide a sustainability for open source in the long term. That is why many people need to have another job, but also very few people is motivated to contribute regularly. So open source community has not very often revenues, and those revenues are more like spontaneous donations. And it would be a great way if we could find a better source of income that could be steady all throughout the time. And another big problem that we find in the open source community is the free riding. And this is mainly because we see often big corporations that take advantage of people, of open source, and they don't give anything in return. So they might use an open source project and they modify it and they can sell it as a product that be run by those big corporations without giving enough credit to the open source community or the open source creators, or nor even given an enough donation or a constant donation to the creators. So that's a big problem. Also, these companies are motivated to invest in the maintenance of the open source software because they are aware that if they invest in open innovation, they will be losing their markup. So they will be giving tools to the competence to be better, and that's something that they feel vulnerable on while financing open innovation. And that is one of the reasons of the security problems that we lived in the past, like Log4j vulnerability, that might occur very often. So we don't have enough incentives from big corporations to invest in open source, while it is something that everybody uses and everybody can be benefit from. And we should start thinking in a better idea on how mentally can we change that. So it's not only how we as single individuals can have a change of mentality, but also how big corporations switch into another type of mentality where Web3 allows us to evolve into a new system, into a new methodology, into a new economy, and how can we make it better, right? One of the things that I would like to point out is that open source community has a great impact in the day-to-day life of millions of people. There's a lot of people that doesn't know, but Wikipedia, WordPress are open source projects. And people who created those projects, they did it on their free time. They did it as a hobby. As you or me will play, I don't know, video games. They will do this because they love this. They really love the community. And one of the most beautiful things about this community is the sense of cooperation. So we should encourage that. And so many other communities, they lack of this. They don't have this solid sense of cooperation, and that's why the open source community is so solid. We should rescue and prompt that because it's beautiful. But we need to find a way definitely on how to be effective. And when I mean effective is how to incentivize monetization of this hobby where you put the heart on, that is coding. And at the end, that will end up moving into an improvement of people's life quality. And this is mainly related because, well, being effective and being able to monetize your hobby, you at the end will be working in something that you love and that you put a lot of heart and passion on. So that will leave us with a great switch into working in something that you love. I know we all heard about this phrase in many marketing campaigns, but we can maybe, I'm pretty sure of it, but if we all set up in this mentality, we can achieve that. But one of the things that we have to also take into account is that companies face a dilemma when cultivating innovation. And that is because they need to feel the motivation, enough motivation, and willing to invest in intellectual property. And with that, we have to avoid the conflict of interest that some of the very talented employees have, as they become less motivated to contribute to their own ingenuity and expertise to improve knowledge. So they transit into that innovation and those that, they prefer to innovate for the company that is paying off their effort instead of working in their own innovation, in their own ingenuity to create something new. Not all of them, pioneers, of course, they like to go against the current and try new things, but most of the people rather spend time on something that they know that they're going to be rewarded on. And also, companies aren't very eager, as I mentioned before, to invest in free innovation because they're worried to lose their markup, and they feel that they will be helping their competence, and they think that, that's going to benefit the competitors for free. So we have to find a way that both of the parties have a win-win situation. So either developers from the open source give something that everybody uses that they already do, but they receive something in return. And also investors give something that the open source community needs and receive something that they find valuable. So that will be the perfect balanced scenario, as both parties feel that they are giving and receiving good assets with a value that it's great for both of them. So far, we have an effective solution, and the only tool that we have so far is the copyright rules. But copyright rules and copyright licensing has the difficulties to be used in our daily basis. Mainly is because it has a different management in every country, and not to mention the big expenses that it carries having a lawsuit in the copyright or having a litigation concerning copyright rules. So most of the people, normal people like you and me, will rather avoid being on those situations because it can be very difficult to be afforded by a normal person instead of a corporation. So it will be an asymmetry of funds to just go against the current. And many people who that maybe is here and are entrepreneurs, they know how delicate this topic is and how it is needed to be touched with tweezers. And for sure, there can be a better solution for this with the Web3 and the smart contracts. So now we talk about all the possible problems that we might have so far for the open source community. There are other problems that we might not be touching here in this session, but now it's time to talk about the solutions. So one of the good solutions that we can think about is the governance tokenization. And that can be a solution of the Web3. And in that same sense of ideas, I would like to introduce you to DAOVOTION. That is a project that I'm working on. And DAOVOTION is a governance tokenization that allows developers to offer economic value to investors that support their projects while ensuring the freedoms of the open source. So DAOVOTION carries on the sense of community that open source already has without changing that type of freedom or restricting the innovation from the developers. In that same sense of ideas, DAOVOTION has a devotee token that investors see it as a proof of membership of the organization around the project. And the project is what we call the egregore. So the key factor of DAOVOTION is giving incentives to the investors buying assets with an intrinsic value. And an intrinsic value at the end, it comes from what we consider the most valuable thing: honorable actions that they can see as a collateral, and that ensures the commitment of financial obligations. So it's a matter of handling reputation and honorable behavior. In that way, the most honorable way of having a collateral could be that the open source that has a very honorable behavior. And this kind of activity that carries the maintenance of projects, having great quality of codes, that is very, very honorable. And that activity is a good indicator of commitment, which provides a good collateral for the investors. So at the end, what we have is investors of an intellectual property. They find interesting investing in FOSS projects as they receive a devotee token that is a proof of a membership of an egregore, that is the project. And the egregore works as a decentralized autonomous organization that collects revenues for the profit and maintains a prestige as a reputational title. And that reputation title, it's the key factor, is one of the key factors of this project, because that can be used as a collateral in the DeFi, and it's collectively managed by the egregore members. So it's a shared responsibility. The sense of community is still there. And we have all parties with rights and obligations that need to be attended. So it works as a collaborative system community where everybody gives and receives something valuable. With that, I would like to go deeper into the devotee token. So as I mentioned before, the devotee token gives incentives to the investors by giving them an asset with an intrinsic value. And the devotee token draws a reputation value linked to the prestigious score of the egregore. That represents both the degree of commitment of the investors that supported the project and the quality effort performed by the developers and the maintainers. So we need to have a good balance in between people who invest and what do they do with their token, and the people who work in the project and keep it maintained and keep the quality assurance of it. And the prestigious score of the egregore can be either affected negatively and positively when developers do or stop doing their maintenance tasks, or they lower down the quality. So if the project has a great idea, but developers don't keep up and don't maintain the standards that they promised, the prestige of the whole project can be lowered down. And with that, investors will have a lower score to be used as a collateral. So everybody has incentives to be better and to keep up and to continue working on this. So it's a growing community. And also, it can be affected by investors that we call devotees if they fail to fulfill their financial obligations. So that creates a mutual responsibility relationship between developers and investors. So they oversee each other, and that stimulates that honorable behavior, kind of like a Nash game. I love Nash games, so this is something that I love. But yes. Anyways, in this way, egregores serve as an insurance institution, allowing their associated investors to use Devotee tokens as collaterals in DeFi's applications and DeFi's applications, and also Devotee's tokens allow securing oracles that provide information to blockchain applications. So as you see, there is a correlation between the three parties, the investors, the authors, and the developers that maintain the whole ecosystem keep going. So it's a self-maintained ecosystem, and we would like to mention again that we keep intact the values of the free innovation, free work, and choosing the best for the project. And that's something that really motivated us to create this beautiful project that at the end will transform into great social impact, because in the way that we promote innovation, in the way that we promote free innovation for everybody, making it accessible, and at the same time making it profitable, then we will grow better as a society. And well, I would like to mention the final thoughts, why you should keep this in mind, and it is mainly the way that egregore handles reputation of its members by giving and having a shared responsibility that relates the actions of the community in a collective way. And it creates a system where all parties have incentives to keep the quality projects, and also cooperating as the community improves their projects. So developers can monetize their passion, and incentivize open innovation culture in companies. Also, it gives freedom to the author to work in what he knows and wants to do best. So if an author that is very good at any type of science investigation is very good at it, he can dedicate his time to do actually what he or she really loves, and have returns and have revenues in return, and give something good for the society, not for only big corporations that will use it as a product that they will target in their own way, but giving it to the society. So the social impact is great as it is seen like this. But this is all this is all linked to the change of mentality that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. So we have to think in a better way on how can we act more as a community instead of thinking individually. So you will see, and one of the greatest examples of this is the open source community, because they act as a community, and the impact that they have in the day-to-day life to all of us, it's incredible. It cannot be measured. So we should start learning from them and applying that to our own life and situation. Also, investors feel motivated to support projects with a great social impact, as I mentioned. And this model also departs from speculative schemes and incentivize the usury practices as liquidity providers invest with responsibility only in productive projects with a high social impact. So that is also very beautiful, that the people invest in something that they feel passion, and they can oversee the great social impact that it might have in the future. So it's a consensual investment that they do. They give funds constant revenues and efforts, and they receive something in return because they do believe in the project that they are investing in. So that was a very introductory way of thinking the open source and why can this help you all. Thank you so much for this space. I really would like to hear you all and see what you think about this. And I'm very open for chatting about this whole topic, the Web3 and the open source, and how can we make it even better. One brain works good, but 2 and 3 and 4 brains work better than only one.
Great. Thanks, Nebai, for that great session. I think it summed up the whole reason why sustainability is important, and depending on the situations we are going through in the next future. So, by the way, we will take few questions which are coming in. The first one is, as far as I understand, there's a price or value associated with these tokens. How is the base or initial price of the token decided?
This is merely decided by the author of the project. So the author of the project decides what's the initial price for the token. He decides how many of these initial tokens he wants to mint, and that's why that goes in the same sense as the freedom that we want to give to the author to decide what he wants to do and what is the reach of this project.
That's great. It was really the first time I think we have hosted this kind of a session on Aviyel, which is centric to Web3 and what we are trying to do as well. So there's another question. How did you come up with the name egregore?
I am a very spiritual person, so I wanted to take that spirituality into this project because most of the, let's say, religion, spiritual communities are very solid. So we took those names from spirituality and religion into this project. Yes.
Yeah. Even I was confused, and I googled the name of egregore because I never heard that in a project like this. So it means like projects are like something magical or something related to that, or it's something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, not to mention that you can always visit our webpage. Our webpage, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have also a Discord channel, and we would love to see all of these amazing people from the open source open their projects and having an egregore that joins community and works for the best of all of us. So that would be amazing.
Let me share the links which you have mentioned so that they can visit later. There's another question. How has your journey been in building this? How long has it been since
we started this project last year, and we decided to work very, very on detail on the model. So we will give something very solid to the public. So most of the last year we worked very well on the project, on the model. We have published a lot of articles, and at this moment we launched the project since November, and we are willing to receive anyone that is interested on the project. And the project itself is being financed by a treasure hunting game with an NFT collection. So that's how we are financing the development of the project. And each NFT from the collection works as an entry ticket for registering one egregore.
That's right. I have shared the links in the chat, so maybe you can refer this. And also, I will be adding the links and the relevant things which are discussed on the event page itself, So make sure you tune into Aviyel and you stay in touch on Twitter, Discord, or anywhere you want to. So we are on Discord, we are on Twitter as well. So we'll be announcing the the video, the recorded video there, and also most probably we'll be releasing an article like how we have come up with this session and what are the things which can be followed through after listening to this one, so you have a clear reference in future as well. So yeah, that's it from my side. Any more questions you can just ask in the Q&A section. So we have a few more minutes to go.
Yeah, I do have a question for the community. I would like you to mention, what do you think besides these big three problems are a big issue for the open source community? I would like to hear your thoughts, and maybe we can all create a solution for those problems. Come on.
Yeah. Maybe, give them a few minutes of time. Can you mention again what are the big three problems again?
Yeah, so the big three is first, the scarcity of talented people working in the open source constantly.
Yeah.
The second problem would be the philanthropy as a constant revenue. And the third problem is free riding and lack of maintenance.
Yeah. They're asking if you can maintainers are not getting paid enough for the work put in. That is one.
Yes, that would be one of the big three. I'm gonna share my screen again.
Yeah.
So we can all have it in. Yes, indeed. That's one of the biggest problems, because as workers, they don't have any motivation to put their effort every day to keep up with the maintenance of the projects, because they have jobs, they have lives. This is just a hobby, so they don't have enough motivation to work on that and not getting paid.
There's another answer by Utkarsh again. Gamification of the whole contribution process. And also there can be, like we discussed about the whole idea of why we are starting this one. So it can be correlated with the supply chain problem, which is actually the heart of open source, right? Where
that's a good one.
They're putting in the efforts, but some other people in between are trying to leverage it, but not crediting in the right way. So that's again related to philanthropy as a constant revenue. Because that cannot be always a great way. Philanthropy is good, but it's not a great way for the future and the projects, of course, to sustain. Yeah.
Yes, philanthropy doesn't always work, as it won't motivate people to innovate even more, because they won't have the source of income to feel motivated to keep working on this. So if it happens not very often, then it doesn't give enough motivation, monetary motivation, to innovate and be pioneer in this sector.
Yeah. And also things have changed since the beginning, right? So if you compare open source in 1990s, 2000s, and right now we are in the era of internet. Like everything is through internet, everything we are accessing through internet, even the finances, money, and even the goods and services are accessible through internet. So why don't we make this thing of giving back to the community in an internet ecosystem like Web3? So that's the whole point of discussing and coming up with this session. So thanks for joining, everyone, and putting in all the questions. So even if you have any more questions, we are here to answer, and you can reach out to us in our social handles. So Francisco, who is with the name Super Optimo, he has sent this link. So you can check out about Nebai Revelations. They have Substack, so you can actually subscribe to them. So they are giving out the great content, and that's how I found about them for the first time. I was exploring their Substack, and we connected with a common community called Sustain OSS, which is run by Justin Dorfman. So that's how we got in touch. So it's very important to share what you are learning and what you are exploring. It would really help someone like Nebai and us who are doing something in this community as well, helping open source to sustain. And yeah, thanks for sharing, Francisco. And yeah, overall, if you don't know about Aviyel, so we are helping open source project to sustain by bringing some monetization and incentivization schemes within open source system. This will benefit everybody in the community, right? So that's why we are at, and we are still in the initial stages. We just started like 6 months ago, and initially we had like 10 people signed up on our platform, and now we have crossed 3,000 recently into the early access program. So really excited for the same. And if you have any thoughts or anything you want to share, you can email to hello@aviyel.com. So we'll be taking your feedback or anything forward.
Yeah, thank you so much again for joining this space. We have all the channels open for communication. If you would like to come up with ideas, would like to come out with comments, good and bad, we're receiving everything. And kudos to all the programmers out there that don't receive enough gratification from the rest of the world. I'm sending a lot of love and a lot of good energy because you guys are great and your community is great. And a lot of the articles that we have published are based on you and what you do and how you guys do it so well, and how we as the rest of the society can learn from you and can give you something in return. So you are a great part of the starting point of DAOVOTION. You are a great part of the motivation for us to create this beautiful project that at the end will impact everyday's life for millions of people if we can have the reach that we expected to have.
Awesome. Thanks again, Nebai, for joining. I think we'll continue another session maybe in the next month. We'll go with series of sessions on Web3 and this space. So stay tuned for that as well. And you can check out the projects and stay tuned on Aviyel. So you'll be getting some announcements very soon with the recorded video or the articles we are trying to publish. And thanks everyone for attending again. Have a great day.